What's up guys, it's Diego from SGN back with another Mortal Kombat video, and this is Tales of Mortal Kombat Episode 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. And before I get into the video, I want to dedicate this one to my goldfish, Mike Goldberg, who unfortunately about 30 minutes ago I discovered had passed away. And of course, fish aren't necessarily the type of animal that you build a bond with or you build affection towards. However, he was my pet, he was under my care, and that does suck that I lost him. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it's my fault actually, because last night I changed his water, and I changed it a week and 2 days after I changed it last time, and you're supposed to do it exactly 1 week later. So I do believe it's my fault, and the fact that I was in a hurry as well, I probably didn't give enough oxygen, and that sucks, and it is my fault probably, and regardless, it's never fun to lose a pet. Starting off the video, as always, I'm talking about the presentation of the game. And just like Mortal Kombat 2, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 has a very dark vibe, and you're going to be hearing the music in the background unless YouTube takes it down for copyright. You're going to be hearing the music, and you're going to really understand what I'm talking about. It's a very dark tune. It's very dark, it just feels like something bad's about to happen, something very evil is about to happen. Of course, it perfectly fits the fact that Shao Kahn, after being defeated in Outworld, is invading Earthrealm and is trying to unite Earthrealm to his empire by actually showing up himself into Earthrealm and pretty much killing just about everything that moves. So that it fits the tone of the game perfectly, and it is a very dark game, so it definitely it transmits the atmosphere and the feeling that they want you to feel very, very well. Going on to the graphics, much like Mortal Kombat 1 and Mortal Kombat 2, it has obviously the same style, digitized characters, digitized backgrounds, so it does have a very similar feeling to the first two games of the series, and I don't think it's maybe quite as clean as Mortal Kombat 2, but it still does look very good. And the backgrounds in particular, what I really like about this game is that I'm not going to say every single background, but almost all the backgrounds that you see in the game are actually findable in 2018's Chicago. For example, Total MK and a bunch of other great Mortal Kombat fans did a YouTube series of vlogs where they went around Chicago. They flew from Australia, from wherever they were from, Total MK from Australia, and a bunch of other guys from various parts of the United States. I think one guy from Germany as well. They went all the way to Chicago just to experience these landmarks and see all the various different things from Mortal Kombat 3 that you can actually find in today's Chicago. So it really is a very cool thing to see. For example, you can see the bridge background and all that stuff. And it really shows how immersive the game can be, even in actual real life setting. And all the backgrounds, of course, like I said, are taken from Chicago. And they are actually pretty well done because obviously they gave them a lot of art variations to them. They made them very unique, made them very cool looking, and the background in general is probably one of the best in Mortal Kombat. I'm not going to say it's better than Mortal Kombat 2, but it's definitely very good looking and no complaints there. In terms of gameplay, I have to say that Mortal Kombat 3 is probably better than both of the previous games in the series in almost every single way. The biggest complaint I had with Mortal Kombat 1 was that the fact that the game was so slow and the fact that it was pretty lacking in terms of depth. The combos just were pretty much non-existent. It was all pretty much single moves linked up together, and you had to sort of figure out a way to just find a way to outsmart your opponent as opposed to actually being more skilled than your opponent. Of course, skill is involved as well because it is a video game, it is competitive and stuff like that, but for the most part, it is all about outsmarting your opponent and things of that nature. So this game has a lot more of a skill basis to it because, of course, there is a big matter of having to understand combos, having to have very deep combos, very long combos, and probably the biggest thing about it is, the biggest issue with it is a lot of infinite combos. I'm going to cover that a little bit later on. The gameplay, like I said, is fast. They also introduced the run button, which gave it extra speed to it, because you can get to your opponent instead of just having to dash, you can, or jumping forward. Now you can actually sprint to them, which kind of breaks the flow, the monotone flow of the speed of the game. So if you want to slow it down, you can. If you want to speed it up, you can as well. So it gives you a lot of different variety in terms of the way you want to play. If you want to be a slower player, you can. If you want to be a distance player, you can. But if you want to all of a sudden zone in and rush on them, then you can definitely do that as well. So it was a very nice addition to Mortal Kombat 3, really making it stand out compared to the first two games of the series, and giving it a better feeling and really making it feel like a more fledged out fighting game, and really did improve the game in a very big way, in my opinion. When it comes to finishers, of course, they had fatalities, and I am happy to say that Mortal Kombat 3 has quite a few fatalities. I think it was 2, maybe even 3 per character. They also had babalities making this comeback. They also had friendships making their comeback. And they also had animalities. Now, animalities, in my opinion, weren't very cool. Like, the idea of it was okay, the premise was okay, but if you really look at the execution, it was pretty poor. Like, for the most part, a lot of them were just out of place. In particular, there were a few of them that just made zero sense whatsoever. For example, Scorpion. Scorpion instead of turning into a scorpion like you would expect him to do, because his name is literally an animal, he turned into a fucking penguin. That's just the one that comes to mind. There were a few other ones, like I can't remember who exactly it was that turned into a penguin. Into a scorpion. It may have been Cabal for some reason or something like that. Somebody turned into a scorpion and Scorpion turned into a penguin. So it just made no real sense, and it really did show the game was really going down a route that was maybe a little bit too goofy, but I will also get into that a little bit later on. They also had a lot of stage fatalities, which of course are always more than welcome, and of course they also had the introduction of brutalities. Brutalities alongside fatalities, in my opinion, are the coolest finishing move in Mortal Kombat, and they did make a comeback in Mortal Kombat X in a very cool fashion. But the way it worked in Mortal Kombat 3 was you had a big combo at the end, and basically you just kept on going until you killed the guy. You basically had them ripping into pieces and stuff like that. But it was also very skill-based. So it was really cool. It was a great different way to actually kill your opponent instead of having a friendship or something like that. And it was just really, really badass. It was a great addition to the game. And I'm glad to see that they did come back in Mortal Kombat X as well. And they also had the Mercy. I'm not going to say finisher. You could also do a Mercy at the end of the match, which I think you had to do. You had to win the third round by not blocking. So you could do a Mercy, which gave your opponent an extra little bit of health, and then you basically had to keep on. And they gave them basically a second chance. It was an interesting little thing, but it's pretty much another one of those things, much like Babalities, which is basically out there to just humiliate your opponent. Like, listen, you're so trash compared to me. I'm going to give you extra life. I'm going to bring you back, and I'm going to beat the shit out of you again, and I'm going to fatality your ass. So it was cool, but it was also very much meant for trolling. Just in typical Ed Boon fashion, it was a troll job of epic proportions. Another thing I want to talk about that was a pretty cool thing was the fact that there were arena transitions in this one, and not in the way that you see in the new games where a lot of, like in Injustice, for example, you hit a guy, he goes to a different part of the arena or the stage, and it takes a few seconds, and it kind of breaks the flow of it. Of course, it's cool to see for the first 2 or 3 times, but then you realize, okay, listen, it's the same thing over and over again. I don't want to see this, and it's just kind of wasting time. Whereas in this game, you knock a guy up above the ceiling, he breaks through it, he lands on the floor, and it's done. So it's pretty cool. It's a different little thing. It adds like a sort of extra little layer to the map without actually being invasive and really annoying you. So it was really cool. Great addition. And that's pretty much all I listed down. Let me take a look. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, one more thing I want to mention is in terms of presentation, I forgot to say this in graphics, is the costumes. Mortal Kombat 3 has a very, very mixed bag. And the first game, I liked all the costumes for the most part. Second game, I liked them all, except for, I think maybe Shang Tsung had a kind of a bogus costume. But Mortal Kombat 3 is a lot more hit and miss, and it's also because there are a lot more characters. Shang Tsung in this one has an awful outfit, and it's probably his worst one ever. It might be the worst Mortal Kombat costume of all time. It's him essentially dressed up as a genie. And that's really garbage, because Shang Tsung's supposed to be this sinister guy. He's supposed to be this badass, evil dude who takes your soul and all that stuff, and yet he's dressed up essentially as a genie. And that really was annoying. And of course, Mortal Kombat 3, the original version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, didn't have Scorpion. And they had to add him in there because that was a big issue. People were really pissed off about that. They thought Cyrax was the original Mortal Kombat, was Scorpion, and that definitely wasn't the case. So people were very much mad about that, wanted him to come back, and of course they brought him back in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. And one more thing I want to say about characters is the introduction of cyborgs from Lin Kuei. You know, Cyrax and Sector and Smoke, they were all very good additions. They gave it a very different type of thing. You know, you had all the ninjas there. You had Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, Ermac was in the game as well, so Noob Saibot. So you had like 5 ninjas there already. If they'd also had Smoke in there, if they'd also had Cyrax and Sector as ninjas in there, it would have just been way too many ninjas. So for them to find a clever way to, yes, do a palette swap, but do something to actually add a different faction to the game in adding the Takunin version of the of the Lin Kuei, adding the Cyborg Initiative, it was very cool. It was a great addition, and that's another thing I want to give them props for. And of course, the soundtrack of the game is very, very solid. Throughout the game, it was just a very solid game. And moving on to the cons, as I've mentioned them before, the game was a bit too jokey in my opinion. This really was the game that showed that Midway was going a little bit too carried away with making jokes about maybe the ESRB, adding too many ways to just mess with the fact that they were getting so much hate for fatalities. And of course, the animalities were pretty much always dumb. Like, there was really no explanation to how these characters were all able to turn into animals. And if you are going to have that, at least make it relevant more or less to what they turned into. Like, Nightwolf could turn into a wolf, because he has wolf in his name. Scorpion can turn into a scorpion. Maybe Sub-Zero turns into a penguin. I don't know. But of course, a lot of them were just kind of mixed and just really stupid and didn't really make any sense. So the game was going a bit towards the jokey aspects a little bit too much. And it is nice to see that afterwards, I think from Mortal Kombat 4 more or less going forward, they pretty much took out, not all of it, because of course humor is a very big part of Mortal Kombat, but they needed to take it down a notch, and they did a very good job of doing that. And the last thing I want to talk about was the fact that, like I mentioned before, there were a lot of big problems with combos. Like, yes, the combo system was good. It was a good addition to the game, making it a lot more skill-based as well, making it a very serious fighter. But the infinite combos were very prevalent. Like, there was no combo breaker, which I'm not necessarily saying that combo breakers are a must in fighting games, but there was absolutely no hope if you were fighting against a guy who was really good, or even had just practiced one single combo very much. You were pretty much screwed. If that guy got you in a sequence, you weren't going to get out of it, and you were guaranteed to lose the round by pretty much one single long ass combo, or him maybe like dropping the combo immediately, picking it back up because you're in the corner. So you were pretty much screwed once somebody that was really knew what they were doing got you into a combo. And it's still the same thing in today's games, but nowadays there are ways to get out of it more or less. Regardless of whether it's combos or whether combo breakers or not, you are able to more or less to get out of it if you are skilled enough. Whereas in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, that wasn't really the case. You found yourself getting beat up quite a bit. And one more thing, the AI in Mortal Kombat 3 was improved in a very big way. It was a lot better, but certain characters, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, Jade, that twat was overpowered as hell. No offense, of course, to anybody who doesn't like the word twat, but she pissed me off so much. Like, I can't explain to you how many times I rage quit through my controller. I never broke a controller, fortunately, but I've come pretty damn close because of Jade to breaking multiple controllers. The way she would just spam that sprint to you as soon as she was in the favorable situation. She had the armor, so you really couldn't touch her when she was sprinting. She would hit you with monstrous combos. It was just so frustrating. Even on Novice, she was a pain in the ass. For somebody like me who isn't very good at the games, especially the old games, like nowadays with the modern ones, I'm more or less capable of holding my own against even the okay players out there. So against the AI on at least medium, I don't really have too much of a problem with it. So for me to go get on Novice in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 and still get my ass beat brutally by Jade on a regular basis, it's very frustrating. So that was one of the big issues with the game, and pretty much everybody complains about that. So those are the cons. I think it's the first time in this list that I've really given a con, except for Mortal Kombat 1 being slow, which wasn't really a negative. It was just a matter of the game from being in 1992. You know what I mean? That was how the games kind of were. So this is the first game to really have some glaring issues, but even then, it's still a great game, still a phenomenal game. And Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is probably the second best of the arcade games out of the 4 ones. You know, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's without a doubt, in my opinion, the second best of the arcade games. And I want you to let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Do you agree with what I said? What do you think I missed? What would you have added? What would you have taken from this list of positives and cons? Let me know what you think of the game in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video as well. That's very helpful. I haven't been saying that in a long time, but if you guys share the video, it helps me grow, and I definitely need your guys' help to be able to do that. And also hit the notification bell. That way, every time I put out a video, you're one click away from watching because you will get a notification. It'll be easy to watch the video. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.